Time to round up a big story from the week. A federal appeals court has thrown out the new Texas abortion restrictions. On Friday, that judge sided with abortion clinics over a bill signed by Governor Rick Perry. The bill would have stopped the procedure at most Texas facilities where women can legally end a pregnancy. It would have left 7 places in the state to get abortions, which would have been 12 fewer than currently available. So this is our topic this half hour, the abortion ruling. We want to hear from you on our Fox 26 Facebook page. You can also weigh in on Twitter. Use the hashtag Fox26forlife. Joining us live in the newsroom again is our legal analyst, Chris Tritico, our news analyst, Mustafa Tamiz, and public policy analyst, Jackie Bally. All right, Chris Tritico, we'll start with you, of course. Is this the right ruling from a legal standpoint, despite what your views are on the issue? Do you think legally this was the right ruling?
Well, this is the same district court judge who struck it down last time. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals overturned him last time in about 3 days, and we'll see what happens this time because the state has already appealed it. The question that Judge Yackel is looking at is on a constitutional standpoint, and I want to read just one sentence out of his ruling. House Bill 2's ambulatory surgical center requirement burdens Texas women in a way incompatible with the principles of personal freedom and privacy protected by the United States Constitution for the 40 years since Roe versus Wade came out by the U.S. Supreme Court. And what the judge is looking at here is, on a constitutional standpoint, this invades the freedom that Roe versus Wade said women have. And so from a legal standpoint, there's plenty of argument here to say, yes, this is the right ruling. But as we know, in abortion cases, this isn't about law anymore. It's all about personal preference, and that's where this goes. Now, Judge Yackel, Mustafa, is a Republican appointed by George Bush, so the argument that this is just some liberal judge, I don't think that flies. But where do you see this going?
Well, first, let's look at what's happened, right? We used to have over 40 clinics serving over 13 million women in Texas. After this ruling, we'll have nearly, 7, serving 13 million women across the state.
If his ruling is overturned.
If this ruling is overturned. So this is a significant issue. This is a backdoor way of banning abortion when the Supreme Court ruled that abortion was legal in the United States in 1973. It's these culture wars that we can't get past. And so rather than the legislature focusing on how do we tackle education, so to take us out of the bottom of the ranking to the top, they're focused on these things, finding creative ways to try to undo what the Supreme Court had done in 1973.
Judge Yackel said that, especially in South Texas, women will have to travel 150, 200 miles to get a perfectly lawful procedure, and that's part of the reason why he says this is unconstitutional.
I think it's very sad whenever a law is put in place to help women, to make facilities to make them have certain standards that are better, to make sure that doctors have admitting privileges to hospitals, to make sure that the facilities are of a certain standard much better than what it is, that people are now saying, oh, that's something negative against women. This law is really trying to help women because we're saying if you're going to go through this procedure, at least go into a facility that has good standards and good measures and make sure the doctors who are performing these procedures have admitting privileges.
How many cases?
And all of a sudden, this is an issue. No, it's not an issue. It's to help these women who are going to go through this.
How many cases of malpractice did the legislature cite when they passed this law?
That number I don't know.
Zero.
That number I don't know.
Zero.
But just because there's not a number that you can quote does not mean there's not a problem.
Let me go to Sally. She's monitoring our social media.
Let's take a look at what people are tweeting right now. Jennifer says, I did the happy dance after reading the ruling. Federal judge halts the key part of the Texas abortion law. John doesn't like the ruling. He says, Governor Perry, Greg Abbott, keep fighting. And then Ben tweeting, it's not unreasonable to require a doctor to have access to a hospital within 30 miles since anesthesia is used and there are other risks.
Now let's talk about that part of it, because just saying to a doctor you should have admitting privileges when you're performing really a surgical procedure, is there anything wrong with that part of the law?
Well, first of all, it's a joke to say that they're trying to protect women, and I think it's amazing to me that they're actually going out there and saying this stuff. After 40 clinics making them 7 and saying that this is for women's safety when they're trying to backdoor abortion. They've done the same thing when it comes to voter ID. There is no record of fraud of voter ID, but they're creating, they're asking people.
But we're almost out of time.
IDs.
I want you to answer this question, though. That part of the law, you have to have admitting privileges at a hospital. If you parceled this law out into pieces, would the Democrats have an objection to that part?
No, what the Democrats and others have objection to it is that it's a backdoor way of preventing people from getting an abortion, and it makes abortion available to people that have money,
All right.
and it doesn't make it available to people that
Let me
don't.
go to Jackie because I want you to respond to that because Dan Patrick did say, and we've talked about it on this show, that his ultimate goal is to ban abortion in Texas. And then he came back and said, but that's not what this law is about.
Okay, Dan Patrick can say whatever he wants to. He has his own personal viewpoints. A lot of conservatives have many different viewpoints on abortion. This particular law was made and created by a lot of doctors, a lot of health professionals. Again, having certain standards, having certain facilities make sure that they have the proper requirements, proper air filtration, and they have a whole list of things that they want, making sure that doctors have certain requirements, admitting privileges. How can you say that is bad? They're performing a surgery. You want these people to have certain standards above the minimum level.
Even if there was no cited problems.
How can you say that there is, okay, that's by saying, well, why have doctors take medical degrees then?
All right, what about that?
Well,
Real quick, we're almost out of time.
It is completely ludicrous because doctors across the country believe that this is wrong. And to be able to say that this was designed by the doctors is just absurd.
If you look at the bill, you'll see many health professionals were involved in this
All right,
bill.
we're going to have to leave
But
it right there.
overwhelmingly, doctors
We'll be
disagree
back
with
in
this
just a
ruling.
few minutes with another really good topic.